Hey guys, it's Jen, your host of Within Orb, and I am back from Brazil. And while I was down in Rio speaking at the Astrological Conference about the bounds in astrology, my favorite topic, I spoke with some people who didn't know about the CAELi Review. And then it occurred to me, maybe you don't know about the CAELi Review. What is the CAELi Review? It is a quarterly publication stemming from the library and the people who research and work here. And it is filled with amazing articles, some poetry, and full color. And I would love for you to become a reader. How do you do that? Well, I've gone ahead and vamped up a Patreon page to support not only the CAELi Review, but also CAELi and this podcast. So here are some of the tiers you can expect. For $4 a month, you can become a friend of CAELi and join me as I come to the library every day and I pick up different books and I catalog things and I read different articles, and I've shared different photos and such with my friends, but I haven't actually posted things on social media. And I'm like, if you wanted a behind-the-scenes experience of CAELi, why don't you join me on Patreon as a friend of CAELi, and I can show them to you. But some of these things aren't things that I'm comfortable posting on general social media because it feels a little intimate. This is like my daily life and what I'm doing here every day. So I invite you to join me on that for $4 a month. For $8 a month, you can be a digital subscriber to the CAELi Review, or for $10 a month, you can be a print subscriber. And if you're international, shipping will be a bit extra. The benefits go up from there. So at those levels, at least that, I would invite you to go and check out patreon.com/CAELi Institute, CAELi Institute, and check it out. I really would love for you to come and see all of the awesome stuff that I get to look at that you'll be getting to look at too. So without further ado, let's move on with today's show. We have Sydni Deveraux. I love her. It's a fantastic conversation, and I will see you very soon. The Within Orb podcast. Come get Within Orb. Welcome to another episode of Within Orb, and today we are flying down to Oakland, California to hang out with Sydni Deveraux, Lamont, and Young Meatball. What's your new dog's name?
Lucius. Luscious Lucius.
Luscious Lucius. Oh my gosh.
Young Meatball. So yeah.
Young Meatball. I love it. I love little dogs. So Sydni Deveraux, welcome to Within Orb.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm loving that I get to have a conversation with you today, as if we don't already have conversations, but this one will be recorded.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We work together at ISAR, whichever way you want to slice it. I say it both ways because sometimes my German brain's on and sometimes my American brain's on.
That's fair.
How do you say it?
ISAR.
ISAR. Okay.
But I think that's because that's how I was introduced to it. But I have been corrected before where people are like, it's ISAR. And I'm like, well, I heard a board member say ISAR, so I don't know. I also don't correct people if they're however they want to say it is however they say it.
We can settle this by saying IKEA or IKEA.
Oh, I say IKEA.
Germans go IKEA.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm into it. Okay.
But I learned about it over there. So when I came back, I was saying it funny to Americans. Anyway. Okay. So speaking of back then, I have deep envy of how you came up in this world. You got to spend your childhood in an astrology bookstore.
I did.
And not just any astrology bookstore, Maggie Nalbandian's astrology bookstore.
I sure did.
How did that happen? Tell me everything. I want to know.
Okay, so we have to go all the way back to, I think, about 1986 when I was a toddler. I was born in 83. And in preschool, I happened to make best friends with a little girl named Jenn. And from there, going to her birthday party, our families met, my family and Jenn's family, who happened to be the Nalbandians. And then we just all kind of got along in that hippie 1980s kind of way, going to like pagan fairs and marketplaces and, fighting over tie-dye dresses and stuff like that. And yeah, so our moms are very close, and her grandparents became my grandparents. So very familiar with, Maggie. At one point, I lived with her when I was an adult child.
Wow. Hey, cool.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, we were all in carpool together, which meant we spent pretty much all of our time together. I got to go home and be an only child like late at night, but otherwise I was with Jenn.
I love
and
that.
Her brother Aaron, also my brother. So yeah, we just ended up spending a lot of time at Astrology at All, especially when Lara was, hosting her classes and other astrologers would be coming in and out. But most of my memory has to do with Maggie and has to do with Lara and also has to do with Greg, who still has Astrology All. It just comes to various conferences where he does that thing.
Yeah, Astrology at All is actually 50 this year.
That's crazy.
I know, it's amazing. And wow. So, I mean, did you get to, when you were there as such a young person, the world our parents put us in, at what point do we realize, like, this isn't just another bookshop? Did you have a moment where you realized this was a special place or a different kind of place?
I feel like I always understood it was a different kind of bookshop, if only because there was lots of like strange titles that had like planet names on them, or there was a Ouija board inside of the shop. There was crystals, so many crystals. Like there was that, and also in getting to watch Lara teach because it was kind of in this arcade spot in Seattle, and well, it was an arcade. And so it had different shops, so we could go visit other shops if we weren't in, because it was safe back then. It was the
Yeah.
80s. Like, what are they going to do? Put you on a milk carton? Like, what are they going to do? So we got to run upstairs, and Laura would be teaching up there, and there was all these chalkboards with all the glyphs and stuff. So like that was my first introduction to that. But really understanding that like that bookstore was different. It's not like when you go to a library and you can go search anything. It was very specific, and every once in a while you would see like you remember the M dot paper that
Oh,
had
yeah.
charts on them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you like those would print out. So you'd like see like, but not knowing, no idea like that people could read those or understand it or anything.
Right. So it's kind of entirely normal, actually. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is just a place. This is here. I love it.
Yeah. It felt completely normalized. And, when I was really young, I knew I was a Taurus. I absorbed that pretty quickly.
So then the question that I always ask everyone becomes complicated because it's hard. Like, at what point do you say, like, if you were growing up around astrology books in one of the most important, historically important astrology bookshops in the country, how can you say, like, what was your first astrology book?
Well, I would say the first one that was like in my conscious awareness, like I bought myself, I picked for various reasons, was because after many, many years of being very curious about astrology and probably really annoying Laura, like she would answer my calls and my texts, asking about these certain things. And eventually she was like, you need to take a class. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. Unless you're going to be doing like continued education, essentially. And so I went into Soulwise, which is her evolutionary astrology school. And so the very first book I bought was Pluto 1, Jeffrey. And having known that she came from that school of astrology and was really cool too, because I knew that there was a lineage that was touched. Maggie knew Jeffrey, Lara knew Jeffrey. And so that was like a nice gateway in for me. Yeah, so that book particularly was quite interesting and really, really moving and really like, holy shit, like it goes deeper than you could possibly imagine. If you are only looking at sun signs or you're only, looking at your time passages app and you're aware that you have all these planets, but not necessarily how they interplay, it is pretty cool to like get a book that's just like, let's talk about your soul.
I know. And like, there was a moment in the chapter on Pluto in the eighth house where he starts, I believe that's the chapter where he starts talking about Hitler. And it's kind of like, do we have to go here? Oh my God, we're going here. Here we go.
Yeah.
And it made me want to collect a whole series of times astrologers have written about Hitler in their books.
So many. I just recently was reading another book that had that as well. Oh, it's Vocational Astrology. One of the vocational astrology books that was talking
Like,
talking.
wait a minute, why do we have to talk about Hitler in a book about vocation? That's not something we want to. Oh my gosh, wow. Um, that's an interesting place to begin because his focus is so intense. I mean, I'm using that word on purpose, on one factor. How do you widen out into the rest of the craft?
I'm a very curious person. I have a moon in Gemini. it's culminating. It's right. It's with my North Node. Like it's just being gobbled up by that North Node and Gemini in the 10th house as well. And so I couldn't help but be curious about the other branches of astrology. And I also remember hearing stories about certain parts of astrology that I was curious about when I was growing up, right? Like hearing that Lara had lost her ring and she reached out to Alfie Levy to find it. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean you called an astrologer to find your ring? What's that about? That kind of falls a little bit more inside of like the realm of what I like. Not to say that the soul isn't important or that I don't appreciate evolutionary astrology, because I do think that we should be self-reflective and we should, try to dig into our various issues in order to become better people. I believe in that wholeheartedly. But also like the practical application of this art form to be able to help us find our passport or determine if a employee that we're going to hire is going to be good for us, or, figure out when the depression ends. Those are practical things that I really appreciate about it. And so I decided to start broadening out pretty quickly after Soulwise was wrapping up for me. Brennan School STA for Horary, specifically for Horary. I did that, and that was absolutely wonderful. Like so much that I want to do it again.
Yeah, you can never get enough horary because I feel like each person brings their own aphorisms to you and you just keep accumulating ways to see things.
Are you on any of the Facebook astrology groups?
Well, traditional horary astrology is a hotspot for sure.
It is a hotspot, but there's so many of these different groups, right? And there's, I think, at least 3 different horary groups that I'm aware of. That one in particular is the one that I really love being in there. I feel like I learn a lot. And it's kind of fun to witness other people's, because people are very good about coming back and making their judgments and everything like that. Like the rules are very strict. I like that so much. But you get to kind of see everybody's different ways of reading. There's one that one group that only uses whole sign houses. And then there's another group that's Alfie Levy's group. And he uses all the outers. He does, he's like an acid trip.
Yeah.
And he's so good at it, but it's like he's not flying with the trad rules at all.
Wow.
And it's still working for him.
Yeah, no, I think astrology, Kenneth Miller once told me, there are as many astrologies as there are belly buttons.
Belly buttons is very specific. Okay.
Meaning literally every single person has their own actual kind of astrology. They might say, well, I would lean neo-Hellenistic. Let's be real, it's not actually Hellenistic. We don't know what they were doing. We have evidence sources, but we don't have all of them. So, it's just sample.
Right.
And then you have, the development of evolutionary, but even inside of that, every single sort of, figurehead has their own approach. Kay Taylor's doing things that are very different than any of the Stevens or the Jeffreys, right? I mean,
yeah. Or the Maurices, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also very interesting to go from one school to learn somebody else's, or to read, books by Stephen Forrest and also Jeffrey Wolf Green simultaneously, because they're so different. They write so differently. Sometimes Jeffrey gets so into the weeds in terms of like how he speaks. You kind of have to chew on a sentence for like 3 minutes trying to really, absorb it. Where I find Forrest to be a little bit more succinct, which I really appreciate too, because if you want to read about different Pluto signs, you can like read Jeffries and then read Forrest, and then you're like, okay, here we are. Now kind of try to blend those things together and see like what hits and what doesn't. But
yeah, triangulating between the sources and then having something else come out inside of the Sydney version of astrology.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Speaking of, so we're going to go now to the deserted place. I think an island still works. Let's go there. Just, random, generic, beautiful, deserted island. And you can take 3 books with you and an ephemeris. What do you think?
So the ephemeris is separate from the 3 books?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like a given. I feel like I can't let people go to a deserted place in expectations of doing astrology and prohibit them from having an ephemeris, or have every show be like, yeah, I'd take the ephemeris. Like, okay. But they don't have to be astrology books. I've had many guests choose other than astrology books that improve their astrology or actually have nothing to do with astrology. So what would you pick?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe I would want a medical astrology book with me because I'm on an island by myself. What if something goes wrong and I need to figure out what's going on?
I chose the same. I can't lie.
Yeah?
In my episode, I was a Handbook of Medical Astrology by Jane Ritter Patrick, partly because I love her, but also because, like you said, what happens if something goes wrong?
Let's be useful here. Probably some sort of horary book because that would keep you kind of fresh. One of the very first horary books that I ever bought, which was completely over my head because I hadn't even taken any horary yet, was Ema Kurent's.
That is not a small text.
That's
like a whole blanket of a book. It's humongous.
And that's like typically kind of what happens to me is I get really interested in something. I haven't quite, and then I end up finding the most complicated version of it. And then I go, oh God. And then I take a class or I find simpler versions and then go back to it.
I love that.
I feel like I really like hers because it is so thick. It would take me so long to get through it.
I love that choice. And you know what? It's new to the show.
Oh, is it?
It is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to pick a different book from that, it would be something by Anthony Lewis because I just find him so fascinating. I like his brain. I read his newsletter that he sends. I'm just like over here learning about all this. I didn't even know this existed. He's like talking about this weird like sun thing that the sun does. And like the next week he shows a chart of this weird event that happened 800 years. It's just, it is a journey.
Yeah.
And I love that, at least for our foremothers and forefathers, people that came before us that are older and still living, like they got into astrology before social media sucked their attention spans away.
Yeah. Although I will say, you're speaking about that and I'm hearing you, and I know Anthony's work as well. I was in a presentation he gave recently, and that kind of comprehensive, astronomically informed awareness and the kind of smorgasbord of ways of looking on different levels. I mean, talking about an event historically brings in mundane. So it's like all the branches are there present and they're intertwined in their roots. I didn't know this 2 years ago when the podcast started, but when you spend every day actively looking through the books in CAELi, then you start to get it because you're reading that happen, like the sources they had, the books they were collecting that they found and immersed themselves in. And it just kind of, it's like this wow osmosis thing where astrology just gets very like that. It's like, but it is short attention span theater.
Yes.
Declination, out of bounds. Harmonics, boom, 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 boom. It's like a little fruit fly.
Oh, it's great for my Gemini Moon. It's so
good. Yeah.
Always bouncing around. And also just trying to find the connections into the next place,
Right.
So I definitely think that the books I would bring would be so that I can remain really curious. And then I know it's a book that all students end up reading is Heavenly Spheres.
By Helena Avelar and Luis Ribeiro.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful book, and I think it really invites digging into each little thing that they mention and it's like spending time with it for an extended period of time. Even just the triplicity lords. You can just spend all of your time on one chart just kind of digging into that,
Absolutely. That book is very good distillation of so many facets of the classical tradition. If you look into various authors, you'll see evidence that Avelar and Ribeiro were there first. They were there, condensing it for you, presenting it all in a package to say, like, this is the classical approach.
And it also feels really clear and succinct. I like that it's not this 500-page text, not that that's not important to have or have access to, but I like that it leaves a little bit of open-endedness. They aren't overly explaining things. It's just like, this is what it is. Dig into it on yourself, look at the different charts and different tables. And I love that. So I think that would be my third.
And on the island, you'd have time to fix the typos. Yeah. I love that book to death, but the editor in me, the little
There's a couple
secret
of them, yeah.
Virgo part of me, but I find them, it's like a weird superpower to have. I'll look at the page and be like, oh, it's a transposed letters. Damn it.
I love it.
But it would take I wouldn't do it without getting paid. But if I was stuck on an island, I'd be there with you, with the red pen. All right, come on, right. Let's send him a copy where it's like, fix it.
And also come save us because we're on this island.
That's how we send the message.
Right.
The edits are finished like 5 years later.
Through the red pen.
5 years later. Oh, I've never thought about writing utensils. I guess everybody so far hasn't had any. I'm just like, what books are you going to take?
You said books, not
Why
writing.
not writing utensils? Oops. I'll let you have a red pen for that one. It would be a crime not to. You'd need it. Imagine stepping into a room of 5,000 astrology books, turning a corner and stepping into a room of 2,000 more. The Celestial Arts Education Library is every astrologer's dream, and it can be yours. I invite you to come support CAELi before you can visit physically. Your support will mean the creation of 52 new episodes of Within Orb next year, 4 issues of the CAELi Review, our inaugural journal, and countless book talks, events, classes for our community. Visit our website, www.caeli.institute/support, to select your level of care. Please help support CAELi into the future, our future, so that we may study the future together. Thank you for listening. Please enjoy the rest of the show. So 2 of these texts, just talking about the format of a book, because listeners are listening to this and it's sonic, the ear waves are coming through. Ema Kurent's book and On Heavenly Spheres by Ribeiro and Avelar are both very large format, like 8.5 by 11 size or bigger books. So there's a size element here.
There's also like a lap element. There's like it just flips and folds open, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to break the spine, though I am a spine breaker. I'm so sorry if that offends people, but I'm a turner and marker and dog ear and spine breaker, but I like the size of it. I like that you can just kind of hold it open and then take notes or take notes in the margins without it like really taking up everything.
Sure.
So I appreciate that. And I really love that Emma's book. It's organized by type of horary, certainly. And the charts are very clear, which I also really like, because if you go into other horary or other maybe electional astrology books, especially like from pre 90, when they would just do the drawing with their handwriting of the various planets, and you're just kind of like looking at it like, is that Uranus, or is that Jupiter? Like, what?
Yeah.
Figure it all out. I think that it really helps with kind of being able to learn, and that it's right there with it as well. There's a lot of books that have that thing where they'll start talking about a chart and then they're like, oh, but flip to page 151, it's chart 43, and then you're doing this. And so now I just take pictures of the chart. My phone is a mess.
I'm having this Richard Simmons moment in my mind where I'm like, it's either a good thing that it's all on one page or a bad thing, depending on what kind of workout you need. Like, you could be getting some good shoulder work in there with having to flip the book's pages a lot.
For sure. I mean, I think it makes sense that it maybe doesn't matter all that much if you are a person that goes and reads certain books over and over again, because then it's like those charts kind of end up in your brain, like your friend's charts do, where you're like, oh, you know where Jupiter is, and you're like, oh, I know that's hitting my friend's chart right now. No, because remember it, you see it so much.
Yeah, I think there is something to be said there in terms of media, in that someone who's new or to astrology will need the chart next to the text to kind of cross-check, like, what do you mean seventh? What is seventh again? Like, and also just to kind of have that convenience of both together side by side. And then there's
it almost depends on aspects that they're using too, because like if people are just using Ptolemaic aspects, it's really easy for you to just kind of figure that out in your brain. You can kind of build the chart as it's being described to you. But for example, there is a electional book. I think it's Vivian Robson's, yeah. She uses all of the aspects.
the quintile.
I think she has, definitely.
The the sesquiquintile.
The semis, all of those semis and things like
the
that.
semi, demi, hemi, yeah.
It gets a little, she uses the outer. She definitely uses the modern rulerships, but sometimes she'll switch to trad. And so that ends up being a little like, oh, I wish I had the chart right here, right now.
You are reminding me, and I think Vivian Robson's actually a man, but that actually matters. But just to say,
fair.
I love the way that figures from that time, there's the fixed stars, and we've got the every aspect in the world, and then we also have derived houses. So that horary factor coming into natal and derived houses and description, I love.
Derived houses were one of the coolest things to have any concept of from studying horary. That was like the most easily applied back into natal. And derived houses are cool. They're very, very.
Yeah.
Anne is super fast at those. One of the most impressive, I love sitting with astrologers, especially those that are like much, much older and have been doing this for a long time. I'm like, I don't care that I've had a billion readings or that I'm aware of my chart. I just want to hear how you do it. And Anne turns the chart.
And orderly?
Yeah, Anne
Wow.
orderly. She'll turn it in so quick too.
I bet there could be like a practice, like speed read version of like get derived houses in your bones. Here we go.
Yeah.
So apart from all that's suggested so far, as someone who was immersed in this from jump, what do you put in someone's hands if they say, Sydney, I'm ready to learn, what should I read?
Okay, so a book that helped me, that clicked some things into me about movement. It's the Predictive Astrology. I think it's not Bernadette. It is Eagle and the Lark. Is it?
That's Bernadette.
Yeah, that's Bernadette. That was the one book that when I read it, there's definitely an overview of planets and signs and houses, but it's also like how movement impacts other houses. And she was so able, like, to just succinctly make sense that I think I would probably suggest that would be one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Bernadette Brady.
Yeah. She's rad. She's
Mm-hmm.
really rad. And then I like Robert Hand's Planets and Transits book. I like how he writes. I like that he doesn't make everything seem so doomsday, which was, if you go into like all of the very traditional stuff, you're like, oh, I'm going to die. Like,
yeah, there's a book here called Transits in Reverse. And if you look up the 8th house, it's like death. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to die every time something transits my 8th house.
yeah. Yeah. And then I think I did so many things backwards that it's hard for me to see what to do forwards.
I love your approach of tossing him in the deep end of movement, because then you get a sense of the cycles, which I think is actually a humanistic, as much as Bernadette is not a humanistic astrologer by any means, knowing the astronomical cycles really anchors your understanding. So I agree. I think that pick is really beautiful.
I think it's a cool pick.
Yeah.
And then any of the mythology books I think would be really interesting and good. I think people should kind of know a little bit about that. I remember when I was a kid in school, you learn about like Greek and Roman gods, or I went to private school, so Montessori school, so they were really into that, and I got to learn like Greek and Latin, just as like the language as well. So like that makes things a little bit different too. So I think any book that kind of talks about that mythology, so you can kind of either marry it to some of the delineations of some of the planets and like some of the signs and kind of make some sense of that, but also just so we know that like the tapestry of astrology is both technical and also very colorful. It's very mythological, especially when you want to get into fixed stars. And I wanted to do that before I cared about doing a whole natal chart. I was just like, why is Algol there? What is Algol? Like, so I just like immediately bought a fixed stars book and like no idea how to use it.
I love it.
But I just wanted to read all the little things about it,
Yeah.
So definitely think I did it backwards. And I do still think that for as weird and meaty and weighty as the Pluto 1 book is, I think that it's a heart-opening book in a way where if you can't read from A to Z on it, that's totally fine. But if you read where Pluto is by sign and house, it like can really kind of unwrap you in a way where you're like, oh, it like unwraps a curiosity in you from like behind, it's not the moon, it's Pluto, like it's at the very end of the line kind of thing. And then anything about the moon. And I think that's one of the first things that I always tell anybody that asks me, like, well, how should I learn this? I'm like, just learn where the moon is. Like, where's the moon right now? Look up in the sky. And then also you can get a moon calendar, just understanding the different signs that the moon is in, paying attention to where you are and what you're feeling when the moon, like I know that when the moon is in Scorpio, which is not necessarily the most pleasant place for a lot of people, but it's really unpleasant for me because it opposes all my Taurus stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I just invite people to pay attention to where that is and like see why is that sensitive in your chart? Is it because it's squaring something or opposing something? Some people, moon and Sag is a fun time. And for other people, I bet it's really, really awful.
Right.
So just knowing that because it gets you interested in the cycles.
Absolutely. And even in this moment, in this year, we're in a lunar maximum cycle, which puts you in a 19-year context. I mean, you start with the moon and then suddenly you're into multi-100-year Saros cycles, the Metonic cycle, eclipses. I mean, you can go really, really deep with just the moon.
Just the moon. I mean, and it's probably the first thing that, when you're a kid, because you shouldn't be looking at the sun, right? But like maybe your parents let you stay up a little late, right? And then look out your window and you see that the moon is extra bright. I have memories, vivid memories of looking out and like staring at the moon and being like, why is it so bright? Or like, you can see the little spots on it and being like, why is that? And
Right.
seeing that it does change and like, there's no moon today. Why is that?
Or the
So,
cultural interpretations. I've recently seen the Minecraft movie and the moon is a cube.
yeah, wild.
Because everything in Minecraft is a cube. So when the moon rises, it's a big square. I mean, you're like, okay, like, oh, there's an orb in there too. So that's also funny because it's like, oh, you've stolen the orb of whatever. And it's like, he's like, in my place, those are spheres, not cubes. There's no such thing as a cubed orb, but there is in Minecraft. So yeah, I mean, the cultural instinctual knowledge of the moon, just, even people not overtly wanting to be interested in astrology, it's like, they're going to pay attention to the moon.
Yeah.
You can't not really.
Like whether you're curious or not. I mean, there's also like a kind of aura that like when the moon is super full and you're out at night and you kind of like look up and like you can kind of like the air is different.
Yeah.
Like, and doesn't that make you curious? But maybe also like when I think about it, I'm like, why is the moon so interesting to me? Because it's like literally the most powerful planet in my chart. Like it's the most like
And
out
here I am
there.
like, do we have to have a moon? Can we have a chart without a moon? No.
Right? And I'm like, oh, because it's like literally up there. It's the highest thing on my chart. Of course I love the moon. Of course I have like a weird lunacy about things.
I mean, you've said curious and curiosity more than lunacy. So just to reflect that back to you.
Thank you.
So where may people find you in the vast, I know we already called out that you work at the International Society for Astrological Research, but you have such an amazing array of things that you do.
Oh,
Where would
yeah.
you like people who are listening to this show to find you?
Well, I'm a board member for ISAR, so that's part of how I spend my astrological time and service, right? It's like hopefully I do events, so I help create the various programming and events that hopefully helps people learn and connect. And I work for NORWAC as a volunteer coordinator and also various other jobs. So I do that every year. So come to NORWAC. I would love to meet any of you. It's a good time. And I also, I don't know, I'm online as an astrologer, just like everybody else. So I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of that stuff. The Showgirl Astrologer on Instagram. Also YouTube, where I do like the longer, I chop things up and then I also have things all together. It depends on attention spans, though. Some people want to digest something for an hour and other people are like, give me 6 minutes. But I'm also a performer and a teacher of performance, not of astrology. That's not my game. So I'm online as Divine Deveraux on Instagram and also my website. Yeah, I teach burlesque.
Yay!
Perform burlesque. And I also do a big old weekender called Women's Weekend, which is a big old queer weekender that, helps people, I don't know, connect to queer joy.
Wonderful. Thank you for all of the things that you do. And links to all of that will be in our show notes. And Sydney, thank you so much for taking time to be on Within Orb and share your brilliance with us.
I can't wait to go to CAELi, by the way. Like, every time I see anything, I'm just like, I want to go back to my home state.
Yeah, you're always welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Within Orb. If you loved this episode, share it with your friends, give it 5 stars, leave a comment. In Spotify, you can do that now. To learn more about the CAELi Institute and perhaps become a member or take a lab that we teach, please go to caeli.institute. That's caeli.institute. Thanks again to the E-Block Band for providing our intro and outro music, and also to Jen Brown of JJ Boots Productions for being an excellent producer. If you would like to have a podcast be edited like Within Orb, reach out to Jen. This is Jenn Zahrt, signing off for now. See you next week.